I can't tell you how excited I am to have a good friend of mine here. I just looked yesterday at when I started Twitter. It was May 2009, and Andy was one of the first people that I started following. Andy is the poster child for amazing teachers in Michigan who share. And I think that's one of the great things about today, is that the idea is to connect, the idea is to share, and Andy is one of the best, and I'm going to shut up so that he can do the talking. Thanks for being here.
Hi, everybody, and thanks, Dan. That was very humbling. That was fabulous, and I'm super excited to be here, and it was a huge honor when these guys contacted me and asked me to do the keynote. So here's the big question. We've been talking about these essential questions. Is your teaching an excellent adventure or bogus journey? So, but before we start, how many people in here were born before 1979? Yeah, right, some of you. If you're born before 1979, you might get most of this. If you were born before 1985, you might want to get up and move toward somebody else that it was. So anyways, I'll try to add as much background as I can. So I started teaching in January 1995, and this is who I thought I needed to be in my classroom. And to some extent, that was true. I took over a fourth grade classroom whose teacher was retiring, and the entire first semester, he never taught on a Monday or a Friday. And so when I took over in January, when I was there 8 days, it was the most consistency that these kids had had all year. And you can imagine how things went. So when I wasn't being Sergeant Holka from Stripes, I was teaching like I was Bo Schembechler. Sorry, Sparties. I had high expectations, I had a loud voice, and I had very little tolerance. I expected my kids in my classroom to be exactly like I had been as a student. Do what I ask, when I ask, quickly, okay? And it wasn't very fun. And after about year 0.1 or, no, after about year 2 or 3, I was really starting to question, how am I going to do this for 25 more years? And then things changed. Because I faced in 1998 what I figured to be really the make or break point coming up for me in my teaching career. I was assigned a 5-6 split. And I had 6 sixth graders who were gifted in all kinds of ways, especially academically. And I had 17 fifth graders who, for one reason or another, weren't included in the 4-5 split the year before, primarily due to academics, okay? And I had to get them ready for the MEEP. So I really faced this question, how am I going to handle this? Is 1998 going to be the year that I decide to go do something else? But this is what I discovered that year. Because primarily in order to keep my 6th graders occupied while I focused on all the needs of the 5th graders, I utilized some of the technology we had in our classroom, and I started putting them into a lot of project-based learning tasks. And it was great because they were completely busy and I was able to focus on the 5th graders, and the world of teaching really changed for me. And by the end of the year, it wasn't just used to keep the 6th graders busy. The 6th graders were working on projects with the 5th graders. More and more of my teaching was turning into projects with the 5th graders. It wasn't completely project-based learning, but a lot of it was. And I realized that the more these kids were engaged, the happier they were. The happier they were, the less they were goofing around, and the more joy it brought me as a teacher. And then I discovered something else thinking about this. Almost everything we need to know about doing this, engaging kids, we can find in 80s movies. All right? And rewind, because you don't want to have to spend the extra dollar the next time you check out a video at Blockbuster because you forgot the last time. All right? So here, I present to you the ultimate piece of educational technology. The phone booth from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. They use this phone booth to go and access all kinds of primary sources. They go actually right to the time in history. And George Carlin's a pretty cool teacher. He's that guide on the side, just kind of takes them with it. And if you remember how the film ends, they have to do this oral report. And because they're rock and rollers in this band, anybody remember the name of the band? Wild Stallions. Yes, there you go. You probably got the reach out and touch someone reference too, that younger people aren't going to have any idea what that means. But anyways, they were rock and rollers, and they put on this amazing oral report with lights and smoke, and it's just fabulous. And the thing I take from that is not only did they have the phone booth to go and get the information, but they had the freedom to express it and use their personality in their whole essence in order to convey that idea. So we'll move from those guys to the philosopher Jeff Spicoli here. And he makes a great point. It's not just our time. Okay? This time belongs to the kids, too. And I really started to see that as I became a parent and I had my own child in school. What a responsibility we have that we make our kids, our students' times worthwhile. We can learn stuff from other great 80s movies. Weird Science. These two guys, Gary and Wyatt, they create the ultimate 3D printer. I mean, probably the first ever 3D printer invented, and they brought Kelly LeBrock to life for them. All right, so maybe the 3D, this print, something that can do this trumps the phone booth as far as the coolest piece of technology, but we're talking educational technology here. And I guess another big question of today is, did Gary and Wyatt grow up to be Brad Wade and Drew Minock from the Two Guys with Some iPads show on Tuesday nights? Great guys, just kidding. But anyways, kids love to make stuff, and I love the maker movement. And we just did this little project with my third graders where they had to build one of the world's 10 largest buildings out of cardboard and junk that they brought home, kind of Caden's arcade style. And they just want to be involved, okay? But direct their energy so they're not making women in their basement, but they're making good stuff that we can use educationally, okay? And we know that kids love to mess with stuff. I mean, here are two classic hackers. And were these guys separated at birth? You got the kid from War Games down here, and then, Mr. Ferris Bueller there. But, way back in 1983, he's hacking into the computer at NORAD and almost launches a nuclear war. And then Ferris Bueller, he says in the movie, I asked for a car and I got a computer. Talk about being born under a bad sign. But he was able to use that computer and change his attendance records. And so this is 1986. I thought that's pretty amazing that a school back in 1986 had internet in order to be able to do that. But anyways, one of the hardest concepts for me to get my head around as a teacher, as I've grown over these 20 years, is the idea that it can't be the same for everybody, and we have to individualize education. Adam Bellow mentioned in his keynote at McCall that every kid needs an IEP. We need to make a plan of education for every single student. And I think the Breakfast Club really demonstrates that, how these kids spend a Saturday together and they're in detention for something they did wrong, but it really becomes a point of reflection in their lives where they realize a lot about themselves. This is the actual essay at the end of the Breakfast Club that Brian ended up writing for all of them together. They had been assigned the task throughout the day to write a 1,000-word essay about who they thought they were. And so this is what they left. Dear Mr. Vernon, we accept the fact that we had to sacrifice a whole Saturday in detention for whatever it was we did wrong. What we did was wrong. But we think you're crazy to make us write an essay telling you who we think we are. You see us as you want to see us, in the simplest terms, in the most convenient definitions. But what we found out is that each one of us is a brain and an athlete, a basket case, a princess, and a criminal. Does that answer your question? Sincerely yours, The Breakfast Club. And as a teacher, we can't be Mr. Vernon. We have to see the whole kid. And as tough as it can be at times, you have to see the positives in that kid. You know, it's really our responsibility to get the most out of every single one. So in closing, let's just try today, as we learn about technology, but find ways to make school work for every single kid. Find ways to engage them in meaningful experiences. It's about them, it's not about us. So don't be this guy, or this guy, or this guy, or especially this guy, okay? Be more like this guy, all right? The guide on the side, or as Dean Sharesky shared at McCall, be a meddler in the middle. Get right in and dig in with those kids. I'm not sure if George Carlin would have passed all the different background checks that you have to do now to be involved with education. But anyways, I hope everybody has a great day today. Like I said, it was an honor to get to kick this thing off. Fabulous things that this whole Team Jackson does. And so look forward to meeting many of you. Lots of you I know, and it's great to see you come back together. And just everybody have a great day. Thank you very much. Oh, is that Rick Astley? Did you guys all get Rickrolled? Yeah. Can't have anything about the 80s without throwing Rick Astley into the video there.